Owen Caissie is heating up for the Chicago Cubs, and this is a good thing, and I'm going to tell you why. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in. No ball game today. The Chicago Cubs ball game was rained out tonight. We were so excited to do a live watch along. I had the playback all the way set up. I was hoping people would join me on YouTube and on Apple and on Spotify. And sure enough, probably around like 6 o'clock or so, I got the notification that the Chicago Cubs game was going to be postponed against the Milwaukee Brewers. They will play those Brewers again tomorrow, today, Thursday, at a 1:20 start time to end that series, because the Brewers then have to leave and in come the Seattle Mariners for a 3-game weekend set with the Chicago Cubs. So we'll try to run it back next week with the Cardinals, and hopefully down in St. Louis we have some better luck weather-wise, and the Chicago Cubs are able to get a victory. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But that's neither here nor there. Thank you also tuning in for this video. I do need you to do me a favor: like, share, and subscribe to the channel for all your Chicago Cubs content. Like I said, again, it's your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs did have an off day, and some news came out. Craig Counsell did also speak about Shota Imanaga. He did go speak to the media afterwards, and he let them know Shota Imanaga would be reevaluated after his start in AAA this coming Friday. So that's a game that we'll have all eyes on this coming Friday. Shota Imanaga will be reevaluated after that game in AAA, and then after that, we will hopefully see him maybe pitch in St. Louis next week. We got 4 games against the Cardinals. I would not mind just sliding Shota Imanaga into one of those games against the Cardinals down in St. Louis and letting him make his mark on that legendary series. So that's hoping for the best. Again, Chicago Cubs got more fish to fry, literally, than that, because we got the Mariners this weekend. First and foremost, we got to get past those Mariners. But yeah, man, Chicago Cubs baseball, none tonight. Sad night. But there was iCub baseball happening tonight, and one person that is on the watch for the Iowa Cubs is none other than Owen Caissie. Now, Owen Caissie literally had the roughest start to a season that you could imagine. Owen Caissie started out this season through his first 26 games of 2025. Owen Caissie was arguably the top Cubs prospect still in the minors, and he slashed just 219, 330, 521 overall with a 35.7% strikeout rate. And while that was technically an above average line in AAA, and while he was still the younger player for the level, the production was clearly lacking what the team needed from him. But in 32 games since then, he's accumulating in a 4.4 showing last night. Caissie has absolutely popped off. He's went nuts, slashing .322, 0.414, and .529 with a 146 WRC plus, with 10 doubles, 5 homers, a 12.1% walk rate, and a 30% strikeout rate. So, and the thing is, since that point, it even gets better than that. Now, Owen Caissie has recorded at least 1 hit in 11 straight games, 16 of his last 17, and has a 17-game on-base streak. And during that streak, he's achieved video game level production with a .377, .465, .689 with a 196 WRC plus. All as the 13th youngest player at the AAA level. His whiff rate is sharply declining, and he is just finding himself destroying changeups, as particularly of late. And again, like I said, he is fitting in as a great combo with Johnny Long and Moises Ballesteros. So again, like I said, you're seeing from Owen Caissie that he is not only producing against righties, but he's also producing versus lefties as well. And he's spraying the ball and using the entire field. Now, you would ask yourself, okay, Mike, you just spit out a crap ton of stats our way. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. A crap ton of analytics. What does all this mean? Well, it could mean two things. It could mean very well that the Chicago Cubs are in a very good spot right now, and for two reasons. One reason is should they not be able to sign Kyle Tucker, you might look to bring up Owen Caissie. Now, before anybody says anything, before anybody hops in the comments, I'm not saying Owen Caissie is a piece to replace Kyle Tucker next season. Like he's going to immediately come in and replace every single thing that Kyle Tucker does for you in the lineup. No, I'm not saying that. One single solitary bit. What I am saying is that you have a spot open for someone to come up from AAA and be able to contribute. And honestly, for if, let's just say worst case scenario, the Chicago Cubs don't sign Kyle Tucker to a contract extension, and they don't sign him this summer. He goes to Boston, he goes to LA, something like that. If that were to happen, the Chicago Cubs would probably still sign a veteran outfielder, and then also bring Caissie up as backup, and maybe they do platoon out there in the outfield. I mean, this very well could be the case. This is something that Chicago Cubs fans ought to wrap their heads around. Owen Caissie, you might be seeing him out there in right field next year. You like I said, or push come to shove, him and Shota do. I'm sorry, not him and Shota. Him and Saya do platoon right field. I mean, you just never know. Like I said, but the Chicago Cubs do have options. And what's the second option? The second option, and the second reason why it's great that Owen Caissie is playing as good as he is because, y'all, this dude could easily be trade bait. And with his numbers looking like they are, teams that are looking to come off of big time contracts for pitchers or for hitters are definitely going to look at having years of Owen Caissie be able to develop in their system, having them be able to call him up and having him be able to come and do what he's doing right now for the iCubs for one of these other organizations. I mean, that's hard to pass up. That's hard to pass up. And for the Chicago Cubs, it's going to land them a major trade asset, a major acquisition to either strengthen up our hitters or to strengthen up the pitching rotation or maybe the bullpen. But somewhere along the line, the Chicago Cubs are going to have to decide what they're going to do with Owen Caissie. Now, you got more time with Ballesteros. I mean, you still got time with Caissie, too. You don't have to trade him this year necessarily, but I think any trade that we do, because you're not going to trade Cade Horton. You're probably not going to trade Moises Ballesteros. You may trade Alcantara. I mean, like I said, but then again, I still believe Owen Caissie is probably the top prospect that the Chicago Cubs might be willing to part ways with. So you have to look at that and you have to say to yourself, well, I mean, if that's the case, what better time than the present to look at potentially making a trade for him with involving him. So, I mean, I want to know from you guys. You're looking at Owen Caissie. You've heard his stats. You heard what he's doing. You heard how he's rebounded since he's come back from, starting off the season really, really porous. And I think he had a little bit of time out with the injury also. But he's come back strong and his numbers look great. Now, there's going to be a lot of teams aiming to go after the Cubs farm system because of all of the pieces that the Chicago Cubs present in their farm system and how strong and how strength our farm system is. We have the top 3 rated farm systems in the MLB right now. So you look at that and you say to yourself, like, well, I mean, you're going to have to part ways with a couple of these guys if you want to get some proven guys into your clubhouse. So Chicago Cubs got to figure it out. It's going to be interesting to see what they do. But Owen Caissie absolutely could have an opportunity of being called up and just being able to strut his stuff maybe in the majors for a little bit. Let's say, you know what I'm saying, you figure out, well, you can't see Vidal Brujan down. I mean, like I said, maybe you figure something out with Birdie or something like that, or maybe, you know, God forbid, a guy goes down with injury. As long as it ain't PCA or Kyle Tucker, I'm all right. But, you know, like I said, you could try Owen Caissie out there and just see what you got. See what you got. It won't hurt. It won't hurt, especially with the numbers that he's producing. But the question of the day for this episode is, what would you guys rather do? Would you rather would you rather trade Owen Caissie, or would you rather keep Owen Caissie and trade another piece? And if you do want to trade another piece, what is that other piece that you would potentially be willing to trade before you're willing to trade Owen Caissie and part ways with him? Let me know in the comments below. Comment on that part, guys. Also, the Chicago Cubs will go up against the Milwaukee Brewers at 120, and it does look like we are going to start Jameson Taillon tomorrow, which is cool. Like I said, so it does look like you'll see the same matchup we were supposed to see today. So it'll be Jameson Taillon versus I don't know how to pronounce this dude's name, Misiorowski. Jacob Misiorowski, who is a rookie phenom for the Brewers. They got some nasty stuff. So the Chicago Cubs will have their work cut out for them, but hopefully they're more than up to the test. It'll be a 120 start time. And hopefully it's a good game. Hopefully the Chicago Cubs can win this game and take this series. And then after that, you know, we move on and we bring in those Seattle Mariners for the weekend. So we'll just have to see what happens with this. But that's the episode for today. Remember, make sure you guys comment on the question of the day below. Get active in those comments for your boy. I appreciate each and every last one of you. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. You can also leave a voicemail at 217-816-5498 or write me an email at cubsbaseball1992@gmail.com. Appreciate each and every last one of you. Remember, this is the #1 spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Until next time, go Cubs.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.